nobody else wants. And all of a sudden now, thank God, that there are other people who are seeing that it's because it's affecting us, now it's coming out and it's affecting their community. So that's about it. And oh yeah, one other request I would like to ask you, can y'all get some color when y'all committee?
Braden Pitcher and Gene Freeman, please. Okay, there's one of us. You are Braden Pitcher. Is Gene Freeman here? Is Bruce Cunningham here? Okay. Hey, Alan. Hang on just 1 second. How about Gary Stewart? Come on down. Thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Braden Pitcher. I'm a college student that's home for the summer, residing in Garland, Texas, in Dallas County. I'm here tonight representing not an organization, but a social class. People my age, people younger than me, children, the older people, many of you who I see this evening. I would like to comment that I don't see very many people this evening that are my age, and I'm a little disappointed to see that, but I'm here to represent them. I hope you don't mind my using notes. I wanted to be a little bit more sophisticated than just writing on my hand. I'd like to thank the representatives of the EPA this evening for this opportunity to express my concerns. Many people have come up here this evening with very personal stories. I've lived in the suburbs of Dallas pretty much my entire life, and I haven't seen this kind of firsthand pollution. Though I know that it's happened. I've got family that lives in Flower Mound that recently they just had a success with the natural gas companies basically being stopped from building your schools in the suburban areas. The gentleman earlier from the CEA mentioned that public health was the #1 priority, and the gentleman that just spoke mentioned that as well. And I absolutely agree. I'd also like to put forth that public health is also directly linked to environmental health. And this can be seen, many people's actions within the industry and within government, within just their day-to-day lives. You see that it kind of conveys a sense of we are separate, we are above the world in which we live in. And that would force me to say that try going an extended period of time without eating, without consuming any water. Try holding your breath for longer than 10 minutes, and see that you need to ingest these sorts of things. Which then I continue to be confounded by representatives of the EPA, government officials that say that there are industrial safe levels or allowable pollutants in the air, things that, well, the industry can release into the air but aren't supposed to be toxic to us in these amounts. Personally, we need water and air. Everything needs water and air. And if any amounts of these toxins are released into the air, I would argue that any amount is not a safe level. The madam that spoke earlier from the League of Women Voters mentioned the Texas Emission Reduction Plan. Yet I'm confused that upwards of 3 million cars in the state of Texas every year are subject to emissions standards. We have to go in and replace our stickers and go through the state's emissions tests. And that's not just in Texas, I'm sure wherever you gentlemen are from, you have to do the same thing. But I've also recently heard a story, a news report that was on local news a couple months ago that spoke about how diesel engines are not federally regulated. In fact, they are not subject to these sorts of emissions tests. And once again, some gentleman mentioned earlier, follow the money, that the number one way of transportation through goods in the industry in this country is done through semi-trucks and big diesel engines. So it's not really surprising that diesel engines are not subject to federal emission standards. From there, I've prepared a statement. Environmentally speaking, there are few industries more powerful and more toxic than that of the oil industry. We've seen this time and again from Prince William Sound to the Pacific coast off Santa Barbara in 1969, from our Gulf shores just recently to the Persian Gulf, Chevron's atrocities in the Amazon, and Royal Dutch Shell's funding of the wrongful deaths of peaceful activists brought by the Nigerian government. The industry is one of strict regulations that are too often manipulated and circumvented by the strong financial hand of these oil giants. When disaster does strike in the form of environmental destruction, assets and liabilities of these companies are too often broken up and dispersed, allowing those responsible to walk away smiling with nothing more than the proverbial slap on the wrist. When these industry giants face stricter regulations here at home, too often do they find less stable governments overseas to allow their greasy money into their economy and their greasy product to poison their land, sea, and air. In light of this formula for excessive greed, limitless power, and relentless toxification of our only home, Earth, meetings such as this are held to find stricter regulations. Rather than stricter regulations on drilling, I propose enacting guidelines for directing a significant amount of the profit that comes from these industry giants toward restoration of the areas affected by drilling, spills, and heavy pollution caused by these actions. Regarding the future of the industry and the transition to a green economy, as many people like to say, much talk has covered the use of clean-burning natural gas, as much has been the discussion tonight. While the use of natural gas creates far fewer emissions, it can be argued that natural gas drilling creates more toxic effects than oil. As industry oversight, the EPA should be outspoken about this toxicity, following the actions of, say, the Department of Energy listing wastewater hydraulic fracturing fluid from natural gas drilling sites among the most toxic of any oil industry byproduct. Yet, the 2005 Energy Bill allowed exemptions from regulations for these toxic brews, as they are regarded as industry secrets used by individual natural gas drilling companies, rather than environmental toxins that poison the land, air, and water until they ultimately accumulate in humans and wildlife. This fluid is known to seep through the bedrock and soil into the groundwater, poisoning the land, drinking water, and health of many surrounding communities, natural or man-made. Several cases of flammable tap water from gas drilling have been recorded. Many videos are readily available for viewing online. They're not easy to find. Citizens should not be able to ignite the drinking water. In conclusion, my suggestion to the agency this evening would be to enact new regulations as tough as can be. Big oil and gas has too long sat pretty on their throne of greed and grease, poisoning those of us too blissfully ignorant to realize that we should not be so grateful for the bone of cheap fuel we are thrown. Too long this has happened. Oil and gas resources are toxic and finite. What of the world we are left with when it is poisoned and these resources are depleted? That time is fast approaching. As any successful captive industry will tell you, the key to a prosperous future is flexibility. There are renewable possibilities for these energy companies to fund and support and get behind that do not pollute and toxify our homes. For example, and I know this, you are specifically reaching towards regulations as far as the Clean Air Act and air emissions, but in your dealings with people in the industry and other regulators, I want you to keep in mind a success story that has been implemented in Holland. A successful closed-loop system of energy distribution and use, specifically in cars, has been implemented in Holland. Internal combustion engines are subject over in Holland to a large environmental tax, along with regular sales tax, insurance, etc. This provides an incentive for citizens to purchase electric cars. The car, once paid for, is owned by the consumer. The battery, on the other hand, is owned and leased by its maker. With dead or faulty batteries sent back to the maker, which provides an incentive to produce more efficient fuel cells by the people who make the car batteries. Fresh charged batteries are removed and replaced at swap stations instead of gas stations that act on their own through automated engineering, such as robotics, mechanical engineering, if jobs are what needs to be created. This allows a clean, green transportation system unrelying on fossil fuels, but on wind and geothermal energy. This is just a simple example of how, once we clean up the energy extraction process, this is a closed-loop system that could provide transportation needs aside from the regular oil, gas, internal combustion engine idea. The oil and gas industry must stop dragging
Just
their
ask,
feet.
are you getting pretty close to winding up?
Yes, okay, great.
Go ahead.
The oil and gas industry must stop dragging their feet and accept the inevitable wave of change flowing in with the tide of renewable markets. Political will must be the fire held at the feet of big oil and big natural gas, and it is from industry regulators and overseers such as yourselves that this political will can begin to flow. The city of Flower Mound recently said no to big gas, and I applaud their success. I ask that you allow this success to rise the ranks for national action.
Thank you very much. Mr. Stewart.
I think all of you should be given medals or Purple Hearts for hanging in there this long. And I'm tired too. I came straight to work to come here. Thank you all for being here, not only this time, for the multiple times from last summer when this issue was coming up, and then earlier, I think last month, and now this time, so soon. And I don't speak just for myself. I know thousands of us have been feeling besieged for decades. So I want to thank you for that. My name again is Gary Stewart. I'm here representing the Interfaith Environmental Alliance. I'm the founder and executive director of the Interfaith Environmental Alliance. Our goal is to create alliances throughout the state of Texas, bringing people of different faith, congregations of different faith traditions to come together to work on greening our own congregations, to really take seriously the dictum of loving God and neighbor, but then also coming together to advance through nonpartisan political action, advocating for the ecological common good in one's own metroplex or county, and then working together, advocating progressive environmental policies throughout the state of Texas, and supporting our congresspeople in Congress to do the same thing. I was so heartened to finally hear a minister speak at a hearing like this, because I'm sad to say I don't hear it very often. And I feel like, as a person of faith, I should apologize to you, the EPA, that we, the religious folks, at least in this state, have been missing in action for way too long. And we have to take responsibility for that. And I again applaud those who may not belong to the religious congregation or tradition, who have been out on the front lines working on this. You are, like I've said many times before, you are the true prophets of our day and age, and I bow deeply to you for that. You've heard all the data, the factual information. That's not my specialty, though I am also, my full-time job is I work at a cancer radiation oncology clinic here